Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our session on sales practice design best practices. This will really help with forecast accuracy. It'll help with sales productivity and that type of thing. My name is John Smoke with Sales Optimizer. I'm a senior consultant. I'm joined by Mike Mandato, John Sisson, Martise Nix, and Randy Garner. We're all sales process design experts, if you will. We've been doing this for a long time with a variety of organizations, and we're going to walk you through some best practices. And if you will stick with us until the end, we have a giveaway for you that I think you're going to like. So a little bit about Sales Optimizer. This is our commercial. We help clients optimize sales performance, and we really do it around Salesforce, helping people really leverage the tool to be more efficient and effective. And then we have some really unique processes around user adoption and training and that type of thing. We also have apps for enabling the sales process, for performance management, for account planning and large account management. And then we also do some sales operations type work, Salesforce administrative work, and marketing support, that type of thing. So that's just a little bit about us. But let's jump in. First, I want to share with you the power of Salesforce and what happens when you get this right. So Salesforce did a study a couple of years ago. They've updated it since then. They went out and interviewed a lot of organizations across 15 industries, and they found that people who implemented Salesforce and did it right, they saw increases in forecast accuracy of 38%, sales productivity of 38%, and I'm not surprised by those numbers. Now, a lot of clients we get involved with don't see these types of numbers, and what we're going to show you today will really help drive, revenue, forecast accuracy, effectiveness, that type of thing. There was another study done on sales processes and the effectiveness of having a good sales process built into your technology. And so what you'll see here is that most people, or not most, but many people have an ad hoc process. It's not terribly formal. People just sort of have things in their mind, but they're not really, it's nothing formal. As we move up the curve here to informal and more formal processes and dynamic sales processes, the percent of reps making quota increases significantly. And that shouldn't be a surprise. You're doing things in a consistent manner, utilizing your industry best practices when you get to a level 4 type of process. And it just really needs to be tightly linked to your business processes and that type of thing. And it shouldn't come as any surprise to you that when you have a consistent sales process, it will make forecasting so much easier, so much more accurate. So the two go hand in hand. Having a sales process, defined sales process in your system will help your reps do the right things at the right time in the buying cycle. It will help new reps come up to speed quicker because they have a process to follow and they know what's expected. And then it'll of course help your forecast accuracy because you'll understand much more clearly the quality of your pipeline. And so that's the type of thing we're going to walk you through for the rest of this session. Now, I do want to define a few terms before we move forward. We're going to be talking about sales stages and best practices. And that is simply the process you are in your selling cycle or the buying cycle for your prospects and clients. Probability, percentage, that's just your confidence level that you're going to close an opportunity. Now, this doesn't necessarily reflect, I just want to make sure we have the terminology right. This doesn't necessarily reflect the probability you're going to close it on a certain date. It's just reflecting the probability that you will close it at some point. Now, there's another term, forecast category. This is used more for that confidence level of when you're going to close the opportunity. So you might be highly confident you're going to close XYZ opportunity by the end of May, or that you're going to close it, but you're not as confident that you're going to close it in May. It may push into June. And so that's what we typically see forecast category used for. Now, Salesforce bases both the probability percentage and the forecast category out of the box on the sales stage. So if you're in a certain stage, you're at a certain probability and a certain forecast category. I'm going to show you some best practices around what to do to kind of get better. or get more accurate, I guess, with that type of thing. The last two things I want to bring up are activities and outcomes. So activities would be those best practice actions that you want to be executed at each stage of the sales cycle. And so again, this is where your team is doing something in a consistent manner. It makes sure things don't fall through the cracks. New reps coming on board understand more quickly what it is they should be doing at every step of the way. So activities are a critical component of your sales process design. And then last but not least are outcomes. I'm defining those as some interim achievements that you would expect in each sales stage. And I'm going to explain that a little bit better in a few minutes and why that works. So those are our definitions as we move forward. I just want to share an overall sales process design. What you're seeing here, this is a sample where you have your stages right here in the middle. So I'm calling them prospecting, qualifying, solutioning, all the way through closed. Okay, so those are the stages we talked about. Next, you'll notice activities. So in the prospecting stage, we want to be doing some research, having some initial conversations, things like that. Those are our activities. And qualifying, we might have our first big meeting or our discovery meetings and things like that. So these become those activities that we're expecting our reps to execute on a stage-by-stage basis. Now, as they execute these activities in a certain stage, we're looking for them to achieve certain outcomes. And so that becomes the most critical piece of good dynamic sales process design, having good activities and good outcomes stage by stage. And I'm going to take you through some samples. At the end, I'm going to offer you a spreadsheet where you can kind of build your own. We use it for design, that type of thing. Now, I want to talk about stage naming while I'm in this, while I'm on this slide. When I get involved a lot of times with clients, I will see them naming the stages what I would consider to be an outcome. As an example, I might see, instead of proposing, I might see the proposed stage. And because people don't really have a good understanding of how to leverage outcomes and stages, they literally name their stages things like proposed or demo. So, you know, if it's some of my clients, demos are a key component of their sales process. And so to signify that a demo has been completed, they have a stage named demo. And so what you're going to see from me in our company, what we recommend is those things like demo, proposed, discovery meeting, things like that. Those are really outcomes within a stage. So the first thing that we recommend is that you name your stages something active, like I have here, prospecting, qualifying. It's not that you've qualified the prospect. Now, yes, one of the outcomes would be something that tells me that this is a qualified opportunity, so I'm ready to move to the next stage, but it's just an outcome. The reality is, while we're in this stage, we are in the process of qualifying this opportunity. I hope that makes sense. Then we might move to another stage like validating or solutioning, where we're doing a different series of activities and outcomes that we're looking for. But it's a process. So we recommend using stage names followed by ing, right? So instead of qualified, it's qualifying. Instead of proposed, it's proposing. And then you would have outcomes in each stage. So you would know the demo is completed. You've had the discovery meeting, things like that. So I just want to make sure we have a good understanding of our sales process and our definitions. Now, let me get a little more granular here. This would be a sample of stage definitions, okay? So in the prospecting stage, that's an early on stage, I'm really just trying to decide if that's a potential opportunity that we should pursue. I may have not even met anybody. I have had no discussions. You know, I was just riding by a building and saw a company name and thought, hey, they probably need what we sell. It is an open type of opportunity, but it's very early stage. Then we might move to something like qualifying, where we're trying to identify the client's needs, what compelling gaps, you know, what's going to cause them to make a decision to buy, who the key players are, their budgets, fit, things like that. So those are all things, outcomes that we're trying to achieve inside the stage called qualifying, okay? So, and we might have a gate, like if they share their key players in their budget, those might be the gates that say, okay, we're now ready to move to solutioning. You can name this stage whatever you want: solutioning, validating. There's different names for it. I kind of like those two. They fit for a variety of industries. But this is really where we are putting a specific solution together. Hopefully, we're working with the client in a back and forth manner to kind of validate what we learned earlier, which were, the problems they're having, their compelling gaps, players, budget, that type thing. And we're also trying to position ourselves to be the thought leaders in the space, so that we're trying to get our competition, kind of work our competition out or position ourselves better. So that's what I'm calling the solutioning stage. So we're getting a little closer. And then there are some things, once we have our solution or solutions together, then we would move to the proposing stage. Now I call it the proposing stage because literally that's what you're doing. You haven't proposed it yet, but depending on your business model, you probably have to get operations involved. You might have to get subcontractors involved. You will have to put together your proposal, or maybe a presentation, things like that. I always recommend, when you can, a face-to-face proposal or a web-based proposal to deliver the proposal, that type of thing. So those are all outcomes that I would expect to do within the proposing stage. Once we've proposed, then we move into the closing stage. So this is post-proposal. Hopefully the competitors have been eliminated, or at least you're on the short list, and you're just sort of going back and forth, red lines on contracts, timing, those types of things to get the deal closed. And then eventually you move to the closed one stage, where you need to get your implementation team engaged, or ship out your product, or whatever it is in that stage. So those are some typical stage definitions. Next, we have some forecast categories. As a reminder, forecast categories are used to talk about the timing of the forecast. So what I mean by that is, let's say I've got my forecast for May, and I've got a couple of opportunities that are at 80% probability that I've got commit as the forecast category. I might also have a couple of opportunities that are 80% probability that I have in the best case category. What it means is I have the same confidence level, 80%, that I'm going to close all of the deals. The two that I have in commit, I'm confident are going to close this month. The one or two that are in best case are probably going to push to next month. I might be able to, best case, pull them into this month. So that's what we're doing with these forecast categories. And they're very simple. Omitted means there's not enough information for it to be qualified. Any stage 0 opportunity where you're prospecting, is probably going to be omitted from a forecast. Pipeline would be when you have some buying signs that are present, maybe no commitment for a timeline or a firm commitment or anything. You're maybe in that solutioning, proposing type of stage, but you feel good about it, so you want it to be reflected in your pipeline. Typically not for current month closure, but probably 2, 3, 4 months out, you would see that. Best case, that's where you have those indicators, right? They're going to buy, they like what they see, the solutioning's going well, high probability we're going to close it, we just don't know when, we don't have a specific timeline. And then commit, again, is, we've been selected, the timeline's been established, we're very, very confident. And then last, closed one would be where contracts are signed. There's also a closed lost if you lose it, but those are the forecast category definitions, and these are standard in Salesforce. Now, another thing that's standard in Salesforce is that the probabilities can be set stage by stage, or are set stage by stage, and the forecast categories are set stage by stage. So this is a typical scenario that I would see for people using Salesforce standard probabilities, forecasting, things like that, where they would assign a 0% probability in this prospecting stage all the way up to an 80% or higher probability in the closing stage. And they would have these forecast categories that are assigned to each stage. So no matter what, if I'm in the proposing stage, I'm going to be at a 60% or whatever you have assigned, 70% probability, and I'm going to be in a best case forecast category. Now, we all know that not every opportunity is alike. So I could be in a proposing stage on 2 different opportunities, and I feel 90% confident I'm going to close one, and I feel 30% confident I'm going to close the other. Well, standard Salesforce probabilities and forecast categories don't help me reflect that. Some things that might make sense there, right? If you're the incumbent, maybe you have a high probability you're going to close. If you understand the budget, if you understand their needs. Now, you might be a check price and they just called you up and they're kind of rushing you to put a proposal together and they're not sharing the budget. You haven't met any key players. Even though you're both in the proposing stage, or maybe you've even proposed both of those scenarios, the one where you're the incumbent and have information, you're much more confident you're going to sell that. Salesforce, though, looks at them the same way. And so we want to introduce a concept to help you with more accurate forecasting that changes what I'm showing you here just a little bit. Let me give you an example. So here would be the qualifying stage. So here are some examples of some outcomes that you might expect in the qualifying stage. We are the incumbent. So if I can say that I'm the incumbent, that should, I can win a deal where I'm not the incumbent. I can lose a deal where I am the incumbent. All this is saying is, if I'm the incumbent, I'm more confident I'm going to sell this deal, okay? If the client has shared the budget and we can operate within that budget, I feel more confident we can sell that deal. Doesn't mean I haven't sold a deal before without knowing the budget. It can happen. This is really just about building my confidence level so my forecast is more accurate, my probabilities are more accurate, and that type of thing. Then if we do it right, we can actually assign interim probabilities within a stage. So in other words, if I check off we're the incumbent, that's going to add 5% to my probability. If they share the budget, if we develop the requirements, things like that. Now in your business, if you can figure out those high value outcomes, you can really transform your sales process and your sales. I want to give you an example. About 5 years ago, I had a manufacturing client and we were going through a sales process design session. We were coming up with the activities and the outcomes and we were brainstorming. And the CEO, who had been in and out of meetings, walked in, asked what we were doing, and we were talking about it. And he said, oh, if we can get a buyer to come to the factory, we'll close that deal 85% of the time. We said, okay, well, there you go. So one of the outcomes in the solutioning stage was factory visit. We put a 30% probability on it, not 85, but a very high probability. Sales reps, because they saw that and they were trying to improve the quality of their pipeline, started inviting people to the factory. Their sales went exponential. Now, full disclosure, I have never seen another business with that type of outcome that's so strong. But if your business has something like that, you want to assign a high probability to it. A lot of businesses I see, being able to do a demo is a big deal. And so they put a very high 10, 15, 20% probability on demo. And so that's what I mean by these interim probabilities. Just one more I'll show you, solutioning here. We're in the next stage and there's certain outcomes we want to achieve. We assign some probabilities to them. And it's more powerful. So let me show you what I mean by that. This is an example. Here I have the qualifying stage, I have the solutioning stage with some outcomes. Now, when I am in the qualifying stage, no matter what, I'm at a 20% probability. When I'm in the solutioning stage, no matter what, from a Salesforce standpoint, I'm at a 40% probability. However, if I look at where I am on an outcome basis, in this instance, I am the incumbent and we develop the requirements, but that's all. So from an outcome standpoint, actual achievements, I'm only showing myself at an 8% probability. Let me show you how, get back. I want to open this up and just kind of do a scenario with you. So hopefully you can see this okay. Right now, I'm saying that I am in the solutioning stage. So Salesforce says I'm at a 40% probability. Now, I developed the requirements, so I'm going to just put yes on this outcome. I'm going to click yes on this outcome. Because we are in solutioning and I'm getting better. If the executives are engaged, and we understand their major challenge, what you're seeing here is Salesforce says I'm at a 40% probability, but I'm more truly at more like a 24% probability based on specific outcomes within that opportunity. So this is a much better view of my confidence level that I'm going to sell this deal. And so that's what we call outcome-based probability versus stage-based probability. Now, how do we implement that? Let me go back to my slides. What we do is we have a sales process designed that we go through. This is the spreadsheet. What we'll do is we'll go through with the client. We'll help them understand the different processes they have, because not all processes are equal. If I'm trying to sell a new logo, I need prospecting and qualifying. If I'm trying to sell a renewal, I probably don't need prospecting. I may need qualifying. So I can skip stages depending on the type of playbook I have. Then we help come up with the right stage names and assign those probabilities. But more than that, we want to help identify outcomes. We want to help identify probabilities. We want to help identify best practice activities. We have a baseline here that we use with our clients, and this helps us then come up with those outcomes and those activities that help our sales reps move through the process stage by stage. Now, let me show you what it looks like in Salesforce. This is an example opportunity that you're seeing. This is we call it Sales Process Optimizer. I'm going to click back on Prospect for a second. You'll see these are the outcomes. These are the weights that we're assigning to those outcomes. Right now, Salesforce has us at a 21% probability, but based on our outcomes, we're showing ourselves to be at an 18% probability. Now, if I'm able to identify the competition, I'll click my button here. And what that does for me is it updates my outcome-based probability. So that's what the two numbers you're seeing here, the 23% and the 19%, that's an outcome-based probability. I can also sort of look at it from a reporting standpoint and look at all of the outcomes that have been achieved in the first stage, outcomes in the second stage, so that I'm seeing, you know what, Salesforce says I should be at 21. Based on my outcomes, I should be at 18. So it just gives us a better forecast, a more accurate forecast, and helps everybody understand exactly, you know, these are the activities I should be doing, these are the outcomes I should be achieving, and every stage has different activities and different outcomes. So that's how you design more effective sales process. This is one option for implementing that process in Salesforce to help you really be more effective. We're about out of time. I do want to just say thank you for spending some time with us. Here are our email addresses. If you will reach out to your rep, whoever is listed here, they'll be glad to send you the PDF of this document, which will give you a link to that spreadsheet so that you can begin designing your outcomes and your activities and your stages. Of course, we're glad to help. We do this all day. We can bring many, many industry best practices. We've seen lots of different scenarios, so we'd love to help, but we wanted to give you something valuable that you can do on your own as well to get started. Thank you and have a blessed day.